Hey everyone, my name is Stefan, aka Plastic Pen, and you're listening to Pen Tales, my brand new art and illustration interview podcast. For this third episode, I've invited Chester Holme, who is a UK-based illustrator and also happens to be part of the Mirror Dreams art anthology book. If you already listened to the first two episodes of Pen Tales, you might see a pattern by now because I've decided that I wanted to invite the Mirror Dreams participating artists for the first season so you could get to know them better, and the podcast of course would help me to promote the project a little bit. The Mirror Dreams book is now live on Kickstarter until March the 7th, so please check it out if you want to support the work of 13 artists and get a really fantastic book in return. I'll put the link in the description, of course. Chester and I talked about how his work and his style profit from creative restrictions, and also how he balances his mental health and his workload as a creative freelancer. I really enjoyed the chat, so I hope you do too. So, Chester, I have asked ChatGPT to tell me who you are, and this is the result. Chester Holme is a London-based illustrator with a knack for making bold, colorful, and slightly cheeky artwork. Pictures someone who started out drawing footballers, but decided, nah, let's shake things up, and moved on to illustrating, among other things, toilets. Yes, really. Graduating from Kingston University in 2015, Chester built a name for himself by capturing the thrill of sports in a style that's both simple and exaggerated, like if Picasso got really into FIFA. His talents have landed him gigs with Nike, Chelsea FC, Facebook, and Red Bull, because apparently everyone loves a good doodle. If you're into illustrations that are fun, vibrant, and a little bit mischievous, you might want to check out his work. Just be prepared for the occasional drawing of someone falling into a latrine pit.
Interesting. Very interesting. You know what's funny from that is that I know exactly where all of those bits of information come from.
Yeah.
Like the few bits of press I've had over the years. I know that project. I know the football project. I can remember the bio of my website that's given those client list.
You have lots of interviews listed on your website and I think ChatGPT had a quite easy going there because it could just pick like some replies to questions.
I really signposted where it needed to go to gather information.
But what I saw is that it kind of is very much into that toilet thing and also football, obviously.
Yeah, interesting.
So these two parts were very prominent.
And I would have thought it's quite a small part of my practice overall, but apparently it's the whole deal now.
Yeah, looks like it. So yeah, it's framing you for that. I mean, it's obviously about the football part. It's pretty obvious when you scroll when someone scrolls your portfolio.
Yeah,
and you do see lots of football-related illustrations, and I think it's pretty obvious that you are a football fan as well. So I was wondering, I had to really ask that as the first question. What's your club?
Queen's Park Rangers, QPR.
Oh, that's
championship team.
Second league, right?
Yeah. Probably the less said about them, the better, to be honest.
Okay. Because I was really wondering, guy from London who's into football, like there's so many clubs to choose from.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit overwhelming. I mean, I grew up on the road I grew up on was Crystal Palace Road, so it feels like I should have gone with Crystal Palace really, but never did, and just sort of through sort of slightly random series of associations fell into supporting QPR, and I've been subjected to that specific misery ever since.
But they played the Premier League a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, we had 2 good years. That's my dog in the background.
Hello dog.
Yeah, we had a couple of seasons in the Premier League, stunk the place up, straight back down to the Championship where we deserve to be, and been a funny season. I don't know how deep we want to go into this, but we were bottom of the league at the end of November, and then we won 15 games in a row, and now we're nearly in the playoffs.
I don't want to lose any listeners or viewers. I think we should talk or we should do a football focused podcast, because I'm a football fan myself, and I don't know much about the the lower English league, so I watch some Premier League every now and then.
Yeah.
Just out of the love for the game. I don't support any particular club or so. But did you ever express your love for QPR in your illustrations?
If you know what you're looking for, there's little clues hidden away.
Nice.
So they play in a like a blue and white horizontal stripe shirt, so it's quite
Yeah.
distinctive. And that you will find that a few times popping up in the backgrounds of crowd scenes or whatever.
Oh, that's great.
I actually did, because weirdly, the club that football club I've worked with a couple of times is Chelsea, who are like geographic rivals. I think they probably wouldn't consider QPR rivals because there's like such a long way between them in terms of rankings. But they're both like West London football teams, and so I've worked with them a couple of times and tried to, within the artworks I've done for them, put a little tiny secret in there. I
Did you
won't
tell
say
them?
where in case I get in trouble, but
Yeah.
if you look hard, they're there.
Nice. That's a great like small Easter egg thing.
Yeah. You got to make it fun
Um,
for yourself, haven't you, when you do projects like this? Got to
yeah,
put a
yeah,
little Easter egg in there when you can.
yeah. Got to keep yourself entertained with that kind of stuff, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
And what is it? Is it about football that fascinates you as an artist or illustrator? Is there something particular?
I mean, we can kind of get into the relationship with football in my practice maybe in a minute when we start. I'm assuming we're going to talk about just sort of my general route through my career so far. But what I do like about it is it's the sort of it's just like it's a social game. So it's less, for me, it's less about the the players or the game itself, and it's more like the social rituals associated with it. It's about the people in the crowd, and it kind of reaching into all different facets of society and bringing people together, and the sort of characters that you get around the game. Yeah, so like football came into my practice weirdly through a bit of a like chance scenario where
Is your work for Chelsea, by the way?
yeah,
Just sharing it
that's
for everyone
really
who's on the visual level as well with us.
I don't think there's a QPR reference in there.
I have to.
That was
You don't
hard
have
to
any in
do.
here. I was just going to go to browse the whole illustration for any hints. But there's some Arsenal. I think that's an Arsenal player here, right?
Yeah, this was I can't remember what the specific occasion for. It was an
Here's
anniversary of
another
Arsenal
German
versus
hero, of
Chelsea.
course.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this was like an anniversary of the I don't know 500th game or something between Arsenal and Chelsea. So it was all about, and it was commissioned by Chelsea. So obviously they focused on all the Chelsea wins. Yeah, but so yeah, I got into doing football stuff. When I was at art school, I made this. It was like a political. We had a project where it was like you had to make a sort of almost like a political cartoon or an illustration that made a political point. And I did this thing of a big football crowd with a politician in the middle of the crowd, like set up to do it as a sort of use it as like a photo opportunity to show that he's like a man of the people or whatever. And he's giving a big thumbs up and a cheesy grin to the camera that's viewing the illustration, but not paying attention to the fact that there's a player being sent off and the whole crowd is like furious and swearing at the referee at the same time. So it was like it was making a different point. It wasn't really about football. I just happened to like football, and so I used that as the basis of the analogy. And then once I graduated and I started getting commissions, that just fell into in front of the right people that were making a lot of football design, like magazines and things, and it turned into actual football work from this slightly sort of analogous, unintentional beginning.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty smart move, to be honest, to go for such a direction when it comes to the subjects of your illustrations and the artworks, especially as a student when you have the freedom to create or to work on your own projects and to make like to get like the best out of your classes. And
Yeah,
for me as a student, it was always like I took a class, but basically the class was just like a frame or a base for some kind of project I always had on my list that I wanted to do. And I think, I mean, I'm not saying that everyone should go for something popular or so, like football or music or whatever, or in the most extreme way, maybe fan art or so. But I think it's still like pretty smart move to create something that has a connection to another huge culture and huge fan base. And I guess, I mean, I don't know, doesn't sound to me like you did that on purpose. I think it just happened out of your kind of intrinsic motivation to make something football related. But I guess that definitely opened some doors for you.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's an instant connection, isn't it? It's like you're making something that you know already has an audience, and it's just a case of connecting that with the audience that's out there. I definitely agree. And I mean, I think there's also the fact that if you're making work about some sort of property that you're already passionate about and that other people are passionate about, then you can tell that you as the artist have enjoyed making that thing, and you have the personal connection to that thing, and the kind of the relationships that you're kind of developing through the artwork they go beyond a surface level appreciation of the thing, so it's like a true fan can spot another true fan having made something.
Yeah, definitely. If that connection is there, it's just really much harder to create this connection with something people do not know anything about, right? I wanna talk about your art style a bit, and I was wondering. So, I would describe your style as quite bold. It relies on big, fat, bold outlines in many parts. You're not someone who outlines everything, but you do use outlines a lot, and it's I would call it quite clean and very balanced in terms of your composition and everything. And I was wondering, do you have any background in graphic design or anything similar? Because I feel like I'm always expressed like how you're able to explain a form or a character with just a few forms and lines, and it speaks very much like graphic design to me.
I don't have a sort of specific graphic design background. I went to Kingston University, and I was on the illustration animation course, but the illustration and graphics departments are kind of quite, or they certainly were when I was there, they were quite closely linked. So there was a bit of interaction between the two, and I feel like they were taught in quite similar ways. I mean, it's cool to hear that you identify that, because I sort of that is what I'm always trying to. Sorry, this is
Yeah, no
my dog's
worries.
getting absolutely mad in the background.
That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. So there is definitely a graphic, a strong sort of tendency towards making work as kind of graphic and impactful immediately as possible. I would attribute that more to when I always just wanted to be in the print rooms when I was there. So I was wanting to screen print stuff a lot. And when you're working with a process like that, you're immediately having to make a lot of restrictions in terms of the amount of information you're presenting, the amount of colors that you're using, trying to simplify the process of making so that it it works in with this sort of slightly more restricted production process. So yeah. I mean, yeah. We were basically. I was always taught that it's like less is more in terms of the information that you're presenting, and the priority is like the clarity of communication rather than necessarily adding detail for detail's sake. The more you can communicate with the least amount there is like the optimum outcome of visual communication.
As you're talking about restrictions, I read it before, so I think that's probably really important to you. And I find it interesting that I guess you have these, or you work with these kind of restrictions both on a technical level by using a limited amount of tools, or like you just said, technical preparation, preparing a file for the printer. Um, I experience that often as limiting and as an issue with my work,
Yeah.
because I mean, we both obviously love details, and to include and add details to our illustrations. For me, it's often difficult, but I have a feeling that for you, this restriction helps you focus on your goal, probably. And not only on the technical level, but maybe also on a conceptual level when it comes to something like perspectives. Um, the the example I have here on the screen, I think it's probably at least one of my top three favorite illustrations of yours. I really love the perspective and the contrast between like how the green pops out, the green of the field pops out in the middle. I really love that a lot. And here you also have like a kind of restricted perspective. I mean, it's a kind of made up perspective that still somehow works.
That's all I can do, I think.
I'm sorry?
That's like the only kind of perspective I can do is the fake made up ones.
Yeah, I mean, it works, right? So you get what happens there. You understand there's the road and there's the buildings and how everything layers up. So am I right in saying that these restrictions kind of give you a comforting consistency kind of thing?
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I've never really thought of myself as a particularly natural image maker. Like I remember when I was at art school, we used to do a lot of like location drawing. So we'd go out to places in public and draw people that are passing, or you're drawing like landscapes or rooms full of museum exhibits or whatever. And I couldn't process the information I was seeing into a satisfying visual thing in front of me. And so I think a way of coping with that for me has been this like quite strict reliance on setting rules and kind of setting up a guideline for an illustration beforehand. So it's like, well, okay, so if I'm using perspective, then I'm going to use these specific angles, and I'm not going to try too hard to make it naturalistic. But if everything follows these rules, then the image becomes coherent and it kind of works on its own internal logic. Same approach with colors, which again came from printmaking primarily, but also because I work digitally, you've got the options to do anything you want with an image, and I find that very overwhelming.
Yeah, it can get extremely overwhelming. I experienced that myself. It's extremely hard to stay like to keep your head down and work towards a result when you have these options, and literally the options in the apps you're using or the programs you're using, giving you like, hey, did you check out the new color palette we have here, or did you check out this new tool? I mean, it's not telling you that, but it feels to me like that when I
totally.
open up my color palette and I see, oh, there's some other palettes I didn't try yet, and they look great, right?
Yeah, exactly. Totally. Yeah. It's like you can get lost in all of that potential, I think. Both like mentally and like, physically on the canvas. Like I remember times early days where I'd be like really tight working, like finesse work on a very small, area, but it's like filling my whole screen. And then I zoom out to view the whole canvas, and it is like completely invisible, the thing that I've just spent 2 hours like micro detailing.
Yeah, I think that's that zooming out thing is a phenomenon that happened since digital art, because before you weren't able to zoom into your work, except for maybe getting a bigger glasses and looking, putting your nose down to the canvas or so. But that's a very digital art kind of thing. And I also read, or that's a question I got, for example, when I live streamed my work before. I got very, very regularly the question if zooming in and out would be counterproductive to my work and my workflow. And I think it's in the end it's just routine. So I zoom in and out a lot, but it's just practice when knowing when to stop adding details to a small piece of the work that you just like how you just described it. And I always describe it as you're when you have a very detailed scene. I compare it to a map of a city, and when you zoom in, you just see like a small bit of a street you're in, but you always need to know the layout of the whole city. So you always need to know, okay, this goes there and this goes there, and once you got that right in your head, it helps you figuring out how much detail you want to put into place.
Yeah,
But
totally. That's a nice analogy. I like that.
Yeah, but you feel free to use that yourself.
Will do.
I came up with that somewhat a while ago.
Chanting that to myself while I'm working on stuff.
Yeah. But it's in the end, it's just practice, I guess.
Yeah, totally. I mean, so the way that I broke myself out of that early on was this the like primary restriction that I use is that I only use a single type of line and a single line weight across the whole illustration. So there'll be no detailing with a finer brush or whatever. And I pretty much keep that line as like a mono thickness as well. I think there's maybe like 10, maybe 15% variance based on pressure. But apart from that, it's all the same weight. And just by doing that, it means you can zoom into an area, but it's just one massive blob that fills the whole area if you try and draw on that. So it's like a very physical restriction from doing that, getting lost in the sort of the small areas of an illustration. And then the more that I did that, the more it's sort of I got to really enjoy this very like upfront, very bold, immediately sort of communicative style, where you haven't really got anywhere to hide, or if there's an area that's less strong in an illustration, you can't sort of detail it to kind of blend it into the background a bit. It's like if something doesn't work, it doesn't work, and you can't hide that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. That's also now I know the reason why I thought that your work was vector illustrated when I first saw it, because of the line thickness, obviously.
Yeah.
What I saw in some of your, I guess, some of your older works, for example, I think this one here probably, I don't have a year of this piece here, but what I discovered is that you used more of these thick outlines in your more recent work. More recent being quite a lot of years, I think.
Yeah.
But still, I think your style developed slightly. For me, I don't know if you can confirm that from your perspective, but for me, it's always like I feel like my style develops a lot continuously, and people tell me that my work looks quite the same in a positive way, like consistent since like 10 years or so. And I'm like, whoa, I changed so much in the last 10 years, even in the last 1 or 2 years. But yeah, how would you describe the is the word development of your style?
Yeah. I totally feel the same as you. It's all, I mean, I guess it's always that thing where it's like you see the small differences so much more overtly than people that haven't been as intimately involved in the process of making.
Well, that's the politician.
This is the one. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yes. Yeah, so this was made maybe 2014, something like that. So
yeah.
10 years ago.
I just realized that this was the piece you've been talking about earlier.
Yeah. So again, this is before I introduced that restriction on line thickness. And I mean, yeah, it's I think this one still works quite well, but it is definitely very different to how I work now. I mean, I think part of the move towards using pretty much exclusively outlined illustration has come from the realities of working as a commercial artist for clients, and it's like it just makes it easier to change things. It makes it easier to communicate what you're going to do through the sketches process, because the image is sort of largely complete, and then color can be added as a sort of secondary layer to that. But I also, sorry, Lainey's going at it again. Off she goes. I also like, so the thing about working with restrictions that I enjoy is that it means you can be kind of impactful in moments where you break those rules that you've set for yourself. And so working primarily with outlines means that if you use an area within an illustration that doesn't have outlines, or you, like in this one that's on the screen, you suddenly use color within those outlines, then it suddenly stands out as quite a different element. And I think it can be quite an effective tool for bringing attention to a certain area or pushing something back to kind of good effect.
Is that something you would say you improved in over time? Because I think that's pretty genius if you break your own rules to put attention to an element in your illustration. I think that's a great strategy.
Yeah. I mean, there's always times where it's more effective and times when it's less effective. But I think it's something I'm definitely quite conscious of when I'm setting the rules in the first place. It's like, okay, well, what would contrast this nicely? Yeah. So yeah, moving towards using outlines definitely came from just working professionally. And I find colors hard work. I don't know about you. Like, I think we both have a fairly we have a sort of core pool of colors that we maybe draw from, or
absolutely,
there's color
purple
motifs.
Obviously, but
yeah,
for
of
me,
course, purple for you. There's so there's sort of recurring motifs that mean that probably, as you were saying earlier, if someone looks at something that you made last week and something that you made 6 years ago side by side, they will see that sort of recurrent color theory within your work and be like, okay, yeah, that's a sort of like a matching element, that those are linked. But when I always try to not recycle color palettes wholesale between different projects. And if you're not operating with outlines, then color becomes even more important than it is otherwise, because the difference in contrast between colors is essentially providing all of the form within the illustration and all of the structure. And that's also something that I don't think comes naturally to me, is building palettes. I try and do it in the sort of the old school way, rather than using palette picker like tools or palette generation tools.
Yeah. I have huge respect for everyone who's able to build a color palette on the go, and just I know a couple of artists who share their process on YouTube.
Yeah.
And especially when they have like a more painterly style.
It's unbelievable.
It always amazes me how they are able to just on the fly pick the right colors that set the right contrast and set the right gray values. It's crazy, and I'm the same there as you described. I also try to come up with new palettes, but I have, of course, my core contrasts, for example. So I know that in my work, purple and orange, if I put that two as if I start with these two as the main contrast in a palette, then I know it will lead to something. Usually, sometimes it doesn't work, of course, because somehow I don't feel it for the particular scene or so. But usually, it leads somewhere, and it's I think it's a pretty own kind of genius if you're able to intuitively build a palette. But I also proceed on that quite strategically and very very. I have a very clear process of doing that.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, my appreciation for particularly like painters that like what's it called, on plein air, like painting outside, painting from life. Since I've been working professionally, trying to describe different scenes, different atmospheres, different times of day, when I just the perfect recreation of like certain like indescribable times of day, lighting scenarios. I can't get my head around it. It's amazing. That's what I guess it's that funny thing where it's like the more, well, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a bell curve, and so it's like the more you experience you have, the more you realize you don't know about uh, stuff.
I don't know about that, but it sounds
I'll try and find it. I mean, yeah,
yeah,
I'm not going to
it
just find it on
sounds
YouTube.
like it's making sense. I think I know what you mean.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like when you're new at something, you
yeah,
think that you're like way better at it or something, and the more experience you get at it, the more you realize that you don't know.
yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's I think it's a good ability to not think of yourself as the total expert in everything. So I guess it helps staying curious and staying kind of humble uh, to your craft, maybe. But sometimes it can feel a little overwhelming when I see others like uh, show their genius. Um, but
Totally.
there's strategies to work around that. For example, I when I made my coloring book around 1.5 years ago, I have a couple of tutorial pages in there how I come up with colors. And when I wrote these pages and set up everything for the book, I had like a huge imposter syndrome moment where I was like, who are you to tell people how they can build good color palettes, because you're winging it all the time, and you're just like, you're definitely not really doing this the right way, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
and I realized after a while, so after this little depressing moment went away, I realized, okay, no, it's not that's not the problem, because on the positive side, you just found your way of dealing with this
Yeah, definitely.
challenge.
And I think everyone's sort of winging it
Yeah,
to some
yeah.
extent, right?
Almost everyone I know does, to be
Yeah,
honest.
no, totally. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, that's fun. And did you get a good feedback on that? Were people like, oh, this color theory was really useful?
Yeah, I got a couple of people telling me that they loved it, and I put some example palettes in there
Yeah,
that I commented like this for example, this for me personally works good because of this and this reason, and then um, I explained how I would come up with this kind of palette that for my art, yeah, just does the job right.
Mhm.
But that
Yeah,
of course doesn't mean that it does the job for others. So I was really
no,
wondering, but so far the feedback was good, and of course, I mean these tutorials were kind of a bonus I added to the coloring book. Um, so yeah, but apparently a couple of people used my tricks to color the pages there, and I guess
nice.
it worked. So it's yeah, it's nice. It's
That's all you can
cool.
ask for, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's a successful color theory lesson right there.
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah,
Yeah,
no, I mean,
whenever.
like that's sort of sorry. Just I was just going to say that is I I've found that like the couple of times I've uh like been actively working with other people on projects. Like you know, you go into it thinking you're winging it, and then but it's like you will have worked out a reasoned process, a logical process for how you're arriving at the type of images you're arriving at, and it may seem really obvious to me or to you, you know, about the things we do. You know, it's like the line weight thing. It's like it just seems so obvious to me that it's like that restricts the amount of information you can present. So you've got to be clear about what you are putting down on the page. But when you say it out loud, people are like, "Oh yeah, I never really thought about it like that." And it's like, yeah, you know, that I guess that's winging it has turned into a solid strategy that you can then pass on and that other people maybe haven't come up with yet.
Yeah, it's your own kind of professional in your very one of one kind of way of being like
Yeah.
an artist. It's yeah, I experienced that a couple times on my live streams as well, when I, for example, I have outlines and I want to color outlines
Mhm,
to single solid color,
mhm.
and I'm using a clipping mask for that. So I set up a new layer, put the color in,
Yeah.
add a clipping mask, and people are like, "What kind of black magic was that? I mean, how did you color all the lines in the one same color?" And I'm like, "Okay, don't know about clipping mask. Well,
Well, have I got
surprisingly,
a lesson for you?
yeah, exactly." So that's really a learning for me as well, and I'm still learning that. But yeah, this whole thing about what is routine for you could be really useful knowledge, or you a really useful thing to learn for others. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, like, you know, if people are making images, everyone's trying to solve the same sort of problems, you know,
Mhm.
and there is obviously a multitude of ways that you can solve those problems, and people go with whatever works best for them in that specific instance or just with their general skill set. But it's like, it's always interesting to hear how people have thought their way out of very relatable image-based problems. Um, yeah, that's why, I guess that's why it's always interesting seeing people's processes, right?
Yeah,
Regardless of how good you become yourself, it's always fascinating watching people's time lapses or seeing them making stuff live, or even just seeing like sketches and thumbnails behind the image. It's like really
absolutely.
really informative.
Yeah, it gets does never get boring to me to watch this kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
Um, I would like to talk a bit about Mirror Dreams because yeah,
Sure.
you are one of our participating artists in the book, and
Yeah.
when we are recording this, it's I think the Kickstarter for the book is in for about 2 days now, and or live for about 2 days.
Mm.
And yeah, the great news is that we are already funded, so we have our 5K euro minimum funding
Amazing.
in, and that means the book and also especially your work will be printed, which is really great news. And
So great. So exciting. I can't believe it. Well, I mean, I can believe it because I've seen the quality of everything that's gone into it, but it's always a relief, isn't it, when you take a swing at something
yeah, because
to,
it was a whole new kind of thing for Dominic and I to try, because we never made such an anthology book, and we also never made something that is like a bit of a comic project.
yeah.
I mean, there's not only comics in the book, but for example, you contributed to short comics,
Mhm.
and you never know how it's going, because I mean, of course we rely on a bit of a social media following and fans who follow for a while now. But when you try something new, of course you can't predict how people will react to it, and if they would probably love it or not. so
Yeah, no, totally.
so yeah, I'm really
Yeah.
happy that this seems to be popular with people. I'm just about to share the campaign here.
I mean, especially,
There we go.
no one's really got disposable income at the moment, right? Everyone's
Exactly.
having to think about every purchase they made. So it's like it's really I mean, it's really humbling that enough people are interested in the stuff that we're making and that are on board with the project as a whole. That everyone's loved it seemingly so far. It's brilliant.
Yeah, 140 people loved it enough
Amazing.
to give us some money to get a book or even more. And yeah, just what you say it was one of my most or my biggest fears or points of concern that I had prior to releasing this because it's really everyone I'm talking to in the industry, illustrators and artists and everyone who kind of is attached or just a fan of illustration is afraid of the fact that disposable income is going a bit towards the lower end
Yeah,
for
totally.
everyone, and uh, clients cut their budgets for art and illustration, and that's definitely that's definitely something I had on my mind when releasing this. Like, do people even pay attention to something like that at the moment? So we're really grateful and happy that there's enough people to back this. And I mean, there's 28 days left, so I really am excited to see where this will land in the end. And
Yeah.
we are quite close to 7.5K euro, and that will mean when we reach the 7.5 mark, we will add a free bookmark to every order, and the bookmark has some art by you.
Perfect
I'm going to
timing,
show it
right?
in a going to show you in a sec. Going to show it in a second. Dominic also made a nice little mock-up animation thing, but I don't know if I
Yeah.
can show that here on the screen right now. If I'm able to. But here's your. Give me a second. Going to try. I don't know how I can share something with that's not in my browser. Okay, but
Yeah.
it's okay. It's
Tricky.
fine. I mean, it's this is supposed to work for audio people as well. So
Can
so
Everyone
that's
could check the socials in a couple of days' time, and they'll find me out.
exactly. And we're going to describe it, and that's
Yep.
that's all right as well. But we see a double spread from your work here. I don't know how many double spreads or how many pages you actually did in the end. I don't know that from the
I
top of
think
my head
10
right now.
spreads, maybe.
I think so, yeah. And yeah, we obviously love your work. I mean, that's the reason why we invited you. And what I really got to say is, and that's interesting because we were just talking about the colors, is how you, so the book will be printed in black and red spot color, red Pantone spot color. And I think you are one of the artists who made the most use of the spot color. So some ignored it, which was fine. We told everyone you can use it or not. It's all right. You can go black and white as well or grayscale. But you really took the opportunity to work with this red color, and as you see here in the example, you played a lot with this contrast, right?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, that story in particular. I mean, just to without giving too much away, I guess for the listeners, I'll give a very brief overview of the dream that came in that I selected from the list that we gathered from all of um, our audience. Was that someone was living, I think, in Texas, and there'd been this big long drought, and they dreamt one night of rain coming, and then like the next day, the drought broke, and suddenly rain came and cooled everything down in this hot, dusty landscape. And I was when I picked that, immediately the difference between the dry and wet states of that story
Mm-hmm.
felt like that's an immediate parallel between the two colors that we've got. And I guess, yeah, maybe that's an insight into the sort of like the restriction based thinking that I am. That I mean, that basically comes first when I'm thinking about projects now, and so that immediately felt like a kind of a graphic parallel I could draw with the narrative in the story to the format of the artwork. And I think it worked really well, actually. I
Yeah,
think that
it's lovely how you included this the color part in your storytelling. That's really great. Love that. Um, and how did it feel to you to draw the actual dreams of other people? Did you see it like a regular commission, or how did that feel to you?
um, I mean, it was really fun. It was fun reading through everyone's that. I mean, some of the stuff on that list was mad.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely wild. I mean, we asked for wild dreams in particular. We said like send us your most wild,
yeah,
most memorable, craziest dreams, and
the
people did
people
that.
delivered.
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
delivered. Yeah, I mean, like, I think I think I ended up picking two of the more sort of like grounded and quite real feeling ones, which was interesting. Um, so to me, it was just they were the ones that I picked. I think had the most kind of natural narrative progression to them. That was sort of, some of them were very uh, based in dream logic, where everything's a bit sort of unreal and there's not necessarily a sort of a setup and then a payoff um, when you view the narrative through them. And I stayed away from those personally, and I went for the ones that I felt like um, were better as an actual narrative. Um, I mean, so I thought I was gonna when I was at art school, I thought I was gonna come out and make comics. So I have made a few in the past, not for a number of years now. Um, but
I didn't know that.
yeah,
That's interesting. I think I'm not sure if ever saw any comic work of yours before.
There might be one on my website if you still got that up. I think it might be like one of the oldest projects I've got on there.
I have to admit, I didn't click through every project on your website. There's a lot on there. I'm linking your website in the description here of the podcast, of course, if anyone wants to do that for me.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So
instead of me.
Any of the listeners want to have a look at it, go on my website, scroll all the way to the bottom, and it'll be one of those ones.
Great.
But yeah, so I think I have quite a sort of strong background in narrative and storytelling, and I like practice that a bit. And it's been a while since I've done anything like that. But I guess that desire to tell a more cohesive story rather than just illustrating a kind of mad series of events that aren't necessarily connected is still definitely there in my brain. So yeah, I think it came together nicely.
Cool. And what I thought when I saw your final submissions, or even when you sent us your first drafts or your first scribbles, I felt a bit of a surprise in terms of the vibe of the whole story. So I think both of your stories have a certain melancholy, maybe, and while your portfolio isn't like all happy and bright and only orange and yellow and whatever bright colors, I was still like surprised or even impressed by a bit of an unexpected tone in the stories. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I was ignorant again, and I didn't just didn't look at the right projects. But I really feel like you went for more moody and melancholic vibe there. Was it something you wanted to try for a while anyway, or did it just speak to you from the dream stories and you just went with it, or how did that go?
I think there is a bit of that atmosphere generally when I'm left to my own devices. When I'm not working on a client brief, that tends to be where I draw the kind of the drama or the feeling of an image from. It's slightly more melancholy topics. Yeah, definitely. I think that is a bit of a running theme. It's like it's when you get client briefs, you've kind of got to take them on their own terms and put the type of atmosphere and energy into them that they demand specifically. And by and large, people don't want melancholy stuff for like advertising their brands or whatever. So it's always it's nice to be able to follow my own direction on projects like this. And yeah, it has definitely been a while since I think I've made something this kind of self-directed. Yeah, it's that's interesting. I haven't really thought about that for a while, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of projects in my past. I think probably if you talk to my tutors from art school and stuff, they would have similar opinion of the sort of like the role of absence in our lives, and like yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the nightmare you picked, I think we didn't share anything from that, but yeah, so I have to just tease it and tell everyone, please buy the book and you can read Chester's nightmare story. It's really great. I found it extremely really very, very touching, and it deals with first and foremost, it deals with loneliness and kind of a person being on their own and dealing with that fact. And it's really I really loved it. It was it took me by surprise because I was expecting more uplifting work. Not of course. I mean, we're dealing with nightmares, and some of the nightmares were really, really dark. But yeah, but it was a positive surprise to me because I was really like, oh, this is another level on top of your already really great work. So I'm super stoked that you did this story for a book. It's really great.
Yeah, I appreciate
just
it.
Wanted
I
to
mean, it's like when you've got a bit of space to explore a story slightly more in depth. It's I like storytelling, as we've gone over. I like narrative, and I like language as well. So the nightmare actually uses quite a lot more written words rather than just image making, which the Dream does. And that I always find that really refreshing. And yeah, it's definitely like quite an introspective one. I think that comic. Yeah, there's the
Great.
bookmark.
Yeah, I just wanted to show the bookmark. So this is I'm pretty sure that we will reach the 7.5k euro soon, and everyone who gets a physical book or a box with some of the extras will get that for free. So when Dominic came up with the idea to make a bookmark out of this because it fits so well,
It's perfect, isn't it?
it's really perfect. Yeah. So we really had to go with that. So as you were mentioning client projects, I wanted to talk about that a bit.
Sure.
And yeah, or I need to be more the salesperson and say, if you want to know more about the book, please check the link in the description. It's every artist always hates promo, but we have to do it for the book.
Oh, dear.
But yeah,
It's
if
going to be
you
worth
like
it,
what you
guys.
saw,
It's worth it. Go and have a look. Go and
I
go and
think
buy
it's
one.
really, I think it's, I can sincerely say that I believe that it's worth it for 25 euros. It's a book full of really creativity and art and illustration that is all new and really just on a top level. So I'm glad that I don't have to be a lying salesman, but then I can be an honest salesman and say it's worth getting it.
And on top of the great value that you're getting out of it, if you're buying it, you're also supporting 13, is it? 13?
Yeah, including Dominic and me, it's 13, yeah.
Yeah. So you're supporting 13 artists. We all know it's difficult to get by at the moment, so do us a solid.
Right on, yeah. Talking about the situation being difficult for artists right now. So you seem to be quite busy. So from what I got with working with you, so you told us that you had lots on your plate. What's your current situation? Projects coming up in 2025. Can you share about that?
Yeah, I have been. It's been a bit busy start to the year. What have I been doing? I'm doing some stuff right now for Monocle. Do you know the magazine Monocle?
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, doing some little editorial bits for them. They're opening a new shop and cafe, so I'm making some stuff for that. And what? It's like classic. Just leave my brain as soon as stuff's done.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
Yeah, it's been a fairly busy start to the year. One of the reasons, though, that things have been particularly busy is last year I actually stepped back from illustrating full time, and I got a part-time job, just like being a barista in a nice local coffee shop again, which I did
Okay.
right at the beginning of my career.
Yeah.
And it was sort of like partly prompted by the industry not paying as well as it did for sort of 5-6 years of freelancing full time, but also a bit of the burnout that I think we're all familiar with in this line of work. And I basically just made a decision. I need to step away from the screen, just turn the stress down a little bit of like generating enough projects, and just have something else to focus on a couple of days a week. So that's been really nice in terms of like mental health and just taking a bit of stress off, but has made the remaining days extremely busy to fit everything else in.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. It's interesting. I think I need to think about doing some podcast episodes about the topic in particular, maybe. But I've been talking to lots of artists in the last month, and so many people are telling me the same thing, that they want to step back from the screen. They want to have some more time, either a creative outlet, so like an additional creative outlet to their usual work.
Yeah.
That's how I personally feel. I would love to, for example, do more physical stuff again. I mean, making the book is one part because it's a physical product, but the work on the book is still fully digital in the end, up to the point where we actually get the book delivery from the printer. So I've been thinking about doing, I don't know, paintings or something,
Yeah.
or whatever. And others tell me, or like you do, that they've been looking for uh, an occupation that has nothing directly to do with illustration and art. That's really interesting. So I feel like there's an overarching sentiment in the in the scene
100%.
for people that to be like frustrated with the digital, or like the digital culture, or the social media culture. I think social media plays a big part, has a big part of that as well. And I don't know what the solution or the result will be. I only know that we artists have always, as long as I remember, we have always found like our ways to be creative and to have a creative output,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
create a space or circumstances that we can work in. But it's interesting to see this kind of shift at the moment.
Totally. I mean, almost everyone that I know that is entirely reliant on freelancing within creative industries. That goes for like filmmaking and videography stuff, photography.
Hmm.
Everyone's just like, I want to do something else to balance this out, because it is pretty relentless. It's you're either working on 5 things at once and you have no time to sleep, or you're not working on anything and you're trying to figure out how you're going to pay rent next month. Um, and it's what has been notable is, since giving myself um, another income source, but also just I'm just in a nice cafe for 5, 6, 7 hours chatting to people and like not thinking about illustration or whatever. It really puts into perspective a lot of the stuff that I would have been obsessing about with projects. And then like there's been a number of occasions where I've gone in and in a bad mood because I've just had 2 days like struggling with a certain aspect of a project, and then within half an hour I'm like, I'm in a great mood now. This is absolutely fine.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And then you go back to it and you can just solve stuff kind of quickly because your brain's sort of all turning stuff over in the background. You don't have to be actively thinking about things necessarily.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
guess it activates a whole different areas of the brain in total, right? So
Oh, yeah.
you have uh, a completely different occupation of your mental,
Yeah.
your kind of uh, areas, or I don't know.
Yeah. No,
I'm
no,
not an
I
expert in this
agree.
kind of stuff, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And also, I mean, I guess working in a coffee shop specifically, it's a lot of the demographic of people that go in there are also in creative stuff, and in the area that I live in, it's a pretty like there's a lot of people that do sort of similar stuff to me or work in similar industries, but it's also just another way of doing a bit of sort of light bit of networking, but
Hmm.
where there's not kind of pressure on to sell yourself or whatever, and it's a
Yeah, that
fun way
sounds
of like
good.
meeting other people.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds like it's not like wasted time or anything.
No, no, definitely not. No.
Cool. Um, and you have an agent as well. I know that because we first had when we were reaching out to you, we first about the book. We first had a brief conversation with them because yeah, they were just asking about what we were up to, and we were telling them this is not a regular kind of client project.
Yeah, yeah.
This is more like a collaboration thing. But the freelance work that you do is it coming mainly through your agent, or how does it work for you?
It's a sort of combination of things. I mean, I think it's hard to um compartmentalize specifically where things are coming from, because I've been working as an illustrator for like nearly 10 years probably now, coming up on it. So there's just a lot of my work is out there, and uh you never know what's crossing people's paths at whatever point in time. So yeah, they bring in some work for me. A lot of work I just get contacted because people have seen previous things that I've done, but they operate more as like project managers for me, which you might have been able to tell as they weren't involved in this project by the fact that I delivered all my work for this book so late. So yeah, not used to doing that anymore.
So if you had included them in the process, you think you
Would have been breezy for you, mate. You really
wouldn't
missed
have
out.
crashed any deadlines.
Yeah, so they do a lot of project management, and then it's the particularly useful thing is just dealing with contractual and payment side of things, which is kind of it's all right most of the time, but I mean it's really boring to deal with that stuff. Like particularly when you've got work, like I've been doing over the last sort of couple of years, I've done quite a lot of work with Wired Japan. So like they run through Condé Nast Japan, and I've worked with clients in the US and stuff, and everywhere has different tax arrangements, and it's just like a million forms to fill in, and it's often quite hard to understand. And being able to hand off that side of things and not have to chase payments and stuff as well is honestly that's the primary reason.
I learned that the Japanese are even worse at bureaucracy than Germans. It's really wow. Crazy. So we Germans have, of course, there's like the cliche of the German bureaucracy that is just insane, and it's true. But I've been working with Japanese clients, I don't know, 2 or 3 times, and it's they are nice people always. It's really I gotta say they're super nice to work with, but the paperwork and the little details is insane.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, I mean, I think I've been lucky with all of the clients I've worked with. Actually, I think things have progressed very smoothly, and I've rarely had to kind of chase payments over my whole career and stuff, which is obviously the other kind of nightmare scenario for a freelancer is making sure you actually get paid.
Yeah, I think everyone's been there. Everyone who's doing this for a while. I can tell a couple of stories as well. Of course, you don't want to name names, but
no, but you sort of do really want to name names. But
you sometimes you really want to, because it's some of them are very well known big companies that have been chasing quite like high amounts of money for a freelancer, and it's a bit disrespectful sometimes, yeah. But it happens, and it's part of doing this, I guess.
Yeah,
or not if your agent
got to try and not take it personally, right?
Like it's you can't help but asking yourself if you delivered bad work or if you did something wrong or so. But in the end, it's just their accounting. It's not even the people you work with. It's usually, if it's a big company, it's their accounting that is just kind of. Sometimes they have really fucked up policies, like, and I think there's strategy behind it. Sometimes, for example, after asking for the payment 2 times, they tell you, "Oh, there's a wrong number on the invoice. We have a different project number now, and you have to change that." Yeah. You're like, "Okay, that's something you tell me after 2 months."
Yeah.
What the fuck, right?
Yeah.
I think there's like a scheme behind that, but it's of course it's never about the quality of your work, but you can't help but think that sometimes.
Yeah, but it's been a real pleasure to just be able to leave all of that to someone else and just think about the work, which takes up enough brain space as it is. You know, I don't want to be dealing with all the admin of working out usages, and you know, even just like calculating prices on your own is always stressful and hard. You know, I don't know if I presume you would be similar to me, where it's like you don't have a kind of flat rate for certain types of work generally, and it kind of depends.
I have a basic daily rate that I want to apply to everything I do. So, for example, it helps me when someone approaches me with a request to find out, okay, where do we land roughly for this kind of work? But then it's also, for me, it's a difference if the client is a startup or is a big Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
What they want to use the illustration for, obviously. So there's lots of factors involved, and
exactly.
I usually have a range. So when someone asks me like, what should I expect to pay you for this kind of work, I give them a range. and say like there's like simple work, there's medium detailed work, and there's extremely detailed work, and then there's animations. So they know roughly what they have to expect. But I have an agency, and I don't work that closely with them. As if you guys are listening, I'm sorry. I should be more close to you, and I should send you my latest work more often. But I personally learned that I like to have control over things that I think you would probably say don't mind giving away to someone. So, for example, when it comes to writing a quote or stuff like everything around project management, I don't like this kind of to have some kind of intermediary who has to sum up what the client told them to me. So I like to speak to the clients directly about stuff, and that unfortunately that comes with stuff like like organizational stuff that isn't really lots of fun. But I somehow grew into being able to not hate it too much anymore.
Oh,
right?
that's ideal then.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. I mean,
So I have an agency, but I'd still do most of my price calculations and my quotes, etc. myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think like I am still involved in all of those processes. So I if a client approaches me, they will be speaking to me directly as well. But what I'd like is having a sounding board and someone that I can discuss things with, and we kind of come to a joint decision about how much we ask for. If we ask for an increase, if we ask for a deadline extension, whatever. It's just like it's like a useful bit of reassurance, I think, where I feel confident always about what the work that I can deliver. What I don't feel confident about is necessarily all of the contractual side of things. And so being able to have someone that you trust to just to like look over things and point out clauses in contracts that might be a little bit dodgy and stuff like that is it's just a useful second pair of eyes just to catch anything.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. I wanted to ask you one more thing about your freelance work that
of course
really kind of stuck to me, because I found your an answer to a question in an older interview so interesting. It's something you said on It's Nice That in 2017 that you for client projects you want to prefer being irreverent to being sentimental.
Yeah.
And I had to look up irreverent. Thanks for making me learn a new English word.
Well, anytime.
The German translation would be something like disrespectful, maybe.
Yeah, or like just not taking it too seriously, having a bit of fun.
That's a nice translation as well. So I was wondering, how has being disrespectful or not taking them seriously, like how has being like that with clients worked since 2017?
Pretty well, to be honest. Pretty well. Everyone's up for a laugh, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's funny, isn't it? I mean, when you do interviews like that, I kind of you're trying to get your point across, but it's always quite kind of hard to articulate things with as few words as possible and trying to make it readable and whatever. I do think though that is generally my approach. Like I think like this. I mean, sentimentality. I guess I don't want to do stuff that's just like very like uncritically celebratory of certain topics, whatever. Like I'm not interested in making stuff that's just like kind of surface level, and so using like humor or a bit of like not dark humor, but like just introducing like some fun little elements into something that's like not necessarily as super related to the topic at hand, I think is a way that you you bring people into an illustration. Like it aids communication. It kind of gets people on board with what you're trying to tell them, and it gives people a reason to spend longer looking at the illustration or the content that an illustration is accompanying.
Yeah, I love that. I think I knew exactly what you meant with that, but I just wanted to hear it in your words, because I love your mindset there. Because when I work with clients, I often have the feeling that, or I think, why do you have to take yourself so seriously? So can't you? I mean, if you can take some humor, or maybe laugh about yourself, everything gets easier in life, I think. And for brands, it's like what you describe as overly cheering for a product or for a brand or whatever. I think this goes in the same direction.
Yeah.
My
I think
wife,
people can see through that as well, like I think audiences,
exactly.
it just reads like it's the visual version of like kind of marketing speak, you know. Everyone's on board with that now. No one's getting fooled by that sort of stuff. So I think if you can show that you're a real person behind it and you're having a bit of fun with the subject at hand, then it makes it endears you a lot more, I think, to the audience.
Yeah, I'd say that brands have understood this more in the last years.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's still lots of potential to improve
Yeah,
on that.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Like
No, it's
recently, I was sorry, go
no,
on.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so one of the projects I have been working on over the last couple of weeks is with some architects, and we were like making this going into a journal. They're German as well. We're making they're like, I think they're putting a sort of essay about their architectural practice into a journal that's going to be published, and I'm making an illustration that sort of describes how they work and some various projects of theirs. And it was pretty fun anyway. But then they came back with the feedback. Yeah, could we add some things in that like it's like sort of unrelated to the projects, just to add a bit of fun to it, like maybe someone walking a dog and the dog pooing. And I was like, yes, we're on the same page. That's going straight in. Perfect.
You've got a lot of German clients, right? So I saw a couple of familiar German
Really
names
based.
and magazines and brands.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because what I mentioned earlier, that your work has this graphic design kind of feel that the Germans love a lot.
Mhm. Oh, I mean, I hope so. Yeah, I love. Yeah, I've had some really nice projects with German clients. I mean, like French too as well. I mean, I think like one of my big design influences is Tintin comics.
Yeah, same.
And so I think there's a kind of general European appreciation for that sort of visual style. And I mean, even that's quite kind of spare on details and quite like each panel's very communicative and simple. So I think maybe that also carries through a lot with European clients.
Yeah, absolutely. The Franco-Belgian comic influence is definitely still strong. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
So I always close the podcast. It's not going to end very soon, depending on how you answer to my next question. So you can do this very very briefly and very quickly. But I have a couple of A or B questions for everyone.
Okay, let's go.
And then I have two last questions that I want to throw in and throw at every one of my guests. And of course, you can, like I said, you can just say this or that, or would you rather A or B? But you can also elaborate on the answers a bit. I think some of the questions would be would give us food to discuss, but just as you like.
Let's go.
And we start with something about your daily routine. I would like to know if you're early bird or night owl.
Okay, right. I think I'm sort of somewhere in between. I mean, I think I like the
That's not
idea of,
allowed. You have to pick.
yeah, I'm going for option C in this
Yeah.
A and B question. Uh, I of those two, probably I like the idea of being an early bird. I find it hard to wake up early a lot of the time, especially at this time of the year when it's dark in the morning and it's cold and being in bed is warm and comfortable. So yeah, I also at the moment, because I've had a lot of work on, and my days have been pretty busy, I have ended up working quite late a lot of the time. But I think I'm going to go I think I think early bird. I prefer to be doing stuff in the morning, and when there's daylight. Um, yeah, I think you've got to be flexible though, right? In this line of work,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
gotta take it as it comes.
So you're early bird, but you prefer to be some light
Yeah,
there in the early day. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. When it's summer and it's like gets light at 4 a.m. or whatever, I can get up nice and early then, no problem. Seasonal early bird.
All right. I'll take that.
Okay.
Next one would be deadlines or no deadlines.
Oh, definitely deadlines. Yeah, I need the structure,
Okay, that's an easy one.
as you know.
As I know, yeah. I thought
Um,
so, but I wasn't sure.
yeah, yeah. Like again, I think it fits with the like rule setting thing. It's like I'm a planner for all of my projects. Like stuff is not I don't I don't make images particularly spontaneously. Everything's very like planned out. And having a quite a rigid timeline also helps with that and helps me like, even like not related to to making work. It's like if I know I can plan, I've got a day off here, and then that means I enjoy that day off and I'm ready to go the next day. And so yeah, having the more structure, I think for me, the better.
Yeah, that's great because you just answered question 4
Okay, perfect.
as well. Because I was gonna ask if you prefer lots of planning or versus going with the flow. So you're a planner then.
Definitely a planner.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the planning is not even for making work anyway. It's like not even drawing. Like I make a lot of lists. Um, it's a lot of words, but I think it's like I think there's like so much sort of chaos going on inside my head that I have to like really get it all down and get it out into a physical format so that I can actually start to sort through it and figure out what needs to be prioritized.
Okay. Yeah. Good for you that you're able to uh that you're able to be organized. Because personally, I would love to be a more organized person, but I have a hard time
Yeah,
doing that.
yeah.
So it's like it's weird.
I mean,
Um,
I guess it's like it's similar to getting up in the mornings. It's like it's a muscle. Like it's
yeah.
like you. I don't think anyone's natural. Well, I guess some people are, but generally people aren't naturally. No one likes getting up at 5 a.m. But like the more you do it, the better at it you become. And I
I
think it
think
is
so.
very.
Yeah. I think the pain isn't big enough for me. So obviously I am not like extremely struggling being a more chaotic person. So I'm
No
able to
reason to
get my
change.
stuff done and it's fine. So the pain point isn't that big. Else I would probably, I don't know, do a workshop about organizing myself or so.
Yeah, yeah,
Like take part in one.
yeah. No,
Um,
so
Next one is would you rather go viral with fan art or flop with an original piece? Flop in like you're doing it for yourself and no one's ever takes a look at it.
I think probably flop with the original piece. I'm not. I mean, I think again, this comes down to what I was saying about like not being that into just like uncritically celebrating things. It's like I'm not that interested in chasing trends or uh, making the type of work that I think is going to get eyes on it. Um, and I don't think I've needed necessarily to do that to get eyes on my more original stuff. Um, so yeah, I think I also think it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of this chat, where I was saying like I think people can tell when you're like genuinely excited and interested by the content of the thing that you're making, and so um,
Well, I mean, fan art ideally is something you are a
no,
fan of
that's true.
yourself, right?
That is very true. That is true. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I think make something original is more interesting to me anyway. I think something coming as a product of your own thoughts and feelings and experiences about subject to me is more interesting, and you see more of the creator behind it than um, reusing an already existing property.
I find the whole fan art topic really difficult. So I did fan art from time to time. I actually thought about doing one for the new Kingdom Come game. I don't know if you
Oh yeah,
if
yeah, yeah.
you're following that, but I'm looking forward to playing it. I play part one at the moment, uh, but I want
Had
to
you played
finish
it
it
before,
before.
or are you playing it for the first time in anticipation of the new?
No, I started playing it a couple of years ago, then stopped, and then now that part two is coming out, I wanted to. Uh, I don't know. I just started the game to find out if I should get part two, because I remember I stopped playing it because I felt a bit frustrating. It
Yeah.
was just like really hard. Especially the battles are really hard, and
From what I
um,
understand, that is like the kind of the core experience of that
yeah,
game.
it's really like that. And so I started playing it again and caught up on the story a little bit, and uh, that was like 3 weeks ago or so, and I realized that I really love the game. It's just really lots of fun, and now I decided I wanted to play it through and then get the second one. And
Nice.
actually thought about doing a piece of fan art for,
Mm.
because I never really made medieval kind of art before, and I always wanted to get um into this, or it's not one of my biggest goals or so, but I always wanted to try making a piece of art that is based on some non-fantasy medieval stuff.
Yeah.
But I never had an opportunity to make something like that, and I thought making a piece of fan art for this could be um,
Definitely.
could be fun, but also could
Yeah, I'd love to
maybe
see it.
reach some people, because it's just like the game is probably being hyped a little bit right now,
Yeah,
but I
definitely.
didn't have the time, so, and maybe I'll do it later. I don't know.
Yeah, no rush. I mean, I think people would enjoy that, regardless of whether
Yeah,
is specifically connected to the release of Kingdom
yeah,
Come 2.
absolutely.
I
So
mean,
I think that's
you made one as well for Pacific Drive, right?
yeah, that was one. That one was a commission.
I was
Uh,
it okay, yeah.
yeah.
Well, because I was playing that game at the same time as you made that, and I was like,
Oh, that's
that's a good
cool.
idea. That's fun.
Yeah, the game is really nice.
Yeah,
I
really.
love it. No, that was a commission. I didn't know about the game before, and they reached out and asked if I wanted to do this kind of fan art thing.
Yeah,
And then for the commission, I started playing it because they gave me a Steam code, and I played it, and I was like, okay, this is definitely a game
yeah.
I
Are
would
you
have.
interested in this?
Yeah, definitely. I would have been sad to miss it, if it wasn't for the commission. And
Oh well, that's the perfect commission experience, isn't it?
yeah, that's really the ideal situation there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I
I
think
mean,
that
yeah, I like games a lot, and I play quite a lot of games, and I definitely think I could see I think maybe I have made some stuff in the past, but like I can definitely could see myself making things based on
yeah, and I think that
some
would
games.
be a kind of fan art that you really intrinsically want to do, and you really like, you're not choosing to do because you think it could get eyes on your work,
Yeah,
but it could be a nice side effect that people react to it, who come from the gaming community or whatever kind of community, and they appreciate your work.
yeah,
So yeah,
totally.
but yeah, apart from that, I totally respect the decision to go for something that you really want to do and do for yourself compared to viral fame.
Yeah, cool. I mean, that's me saying that, you know, out of context. Ultimately, more eyes means I can keep doing what I'm doing. So, you know, who knows if I make that decision in real life? But luckily, this is not.
Yeah, this is
This is
all
all made up
virtual.
anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
I also wanted to ask you about the game you mentioned, because we were asking every artist for the Mirror Dreams book what their
Yeah.
favorite movie, book, and game was, and your reply was
Was it Golden Idol? I think it might have been
Golden
Case of the
Eye.
Golden Idol. I think so.
What
Um, you
what's
heard of
the
that?
name again?
I think it's called the Case of the Golden Idol.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry, I didn't get that. Yeah, right. That was it. And I looked it up because I didn't know the game, and I think it looks really cool. So
Man, it's amazing.
I
You
now
got to play it.
wanna play it. So
It's good one.
thanks for the recommendation.
But you're so welcome. I mean, visually, but I mean, people listening to this are going to be interested in art and visual presentation. My God, that game, it looks so good. It's so weird, but it's really good.
Nice, nice. I love weird and uh
Oh, it's perfect
So
for you.
weird and visually appealing and everything that ticks a couple boxes for me.
Excellent. Good. I'm glad to have converted one more person to the cause.
I have another question for you. This one is a different one. David Beckham or John Terry?
Oh, David Beckham.
Okay.
I
I
hate
thought
John
you.
Terry.
I
Hate that
thought as a
guy.
Londoner, you'd pick John Terry, even though David Beckham I think has a Tottenham past, right?
Yeah, he played for Leighton Orient as well, which is
Oh yeah.
Northeast London. Um, yeah, no, John. I mean, going back to the very beginning of this conversation, I'm a QPR fan. Chelsea and QPR are rivals, so that's an immediate dislike to John Terry. But
Oh yeah, yeah, right.
he's just a bit of a knobhead, right? The stuff with Wayne Bridge. I don't know if you know about that, but him like sleeping with teammates' wives.
Yeah, I heard the stories. I was thinking like I wanted to pick two English football legends of
Yeah,
the not the like super way back, but more like maybe
more
someone
modern.
from our youth
Yeah,
times. And I was thinking like who could I pick? And David Beckham was pretty obvious, but then I wanted to pick two players from London.
yeah,
But then I thought, okay, who could be like the opposite of David Beckham? It's probably John Terry.
yeah. Oh man, yeah, I can't stand that guy. I mean, do you remember when he was in the Champions League final when he wasn't playing and he was in a suit and then he ran off and
But
got
yeah,
changed into a kit and to join the team photos to pretend he was in there?
you're right. Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
Bad vibes from that guy. Bad vibes,
was
definitely.
that the final against Bayern
I
in
think so. I
Munich?
think it was in Munich.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. That's a clear A. David Beckham then. Okay. Last one. Of these is while you're working, do you prefer silence or noise?
Um, noise,
Okay,
noise. I
that's
listen to a
good.
lot of audiobooks and podcasts when I'm working, more so than music, actually, these days. Um,
What
but
what
yeah, I think
uh what podcast do you like listening to? To maybe
so a lot
name
of like
some.
comedy stuff.
Okay,
Um, uh, there's some narrative stuff too. So one that I really enjoyed a couple of years ago it was called the Magnus Archives, and it was a sort of sci-fi um, kind of a bit like X-Files kind of styled show about like a sort of weird government organization and supernatural forces and stuff. It's better than I'm making it sound, but that was quite a fun one. That was like a more sort of narrative led one, and then comedy stuff. Um, I mean, there's lots of it. It's all quite sort of interchangeable. I quite like Three Bean Salad. That's what I'm listening to a lot at the moment.
okay.
Worth checking out if you like sort of
Yeah, I'm going to check it out.
that
I
sort of
don't
thing.
listen to many comedy podcasts. Some German ones, but they're honestly they're mostly not that good.
Yeah.
And we're not known for our humor, and we also do not have so many German comedy podcasts. I think there's a couple, but I most of them I don't really like. But
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's
Three
such a
Beans, you
strong like
said?
British comedy history, isn't there? That there's like a big foundation of that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I love. I don't know. The British humor is something I really enjoy as well. So I'm going to check that out for sure.
Oh well, yeah, do top rec.
Um,
Yeah, I think basically because there is so much planning involved in the work that I make, a lot of the time, actually, when I'm producing final artwork, kind of all the decisions have been made, and it can, if it's quite a complicated image, it can become quite boring. Where I'm just like quite by rote, like just trying to get through all of the line work that I know where everything's going. I know the composition. I know how it's all relating to each other. It just needs to get done. And so in situations like that, that is where I want to listen to people speaking to like take a
Mhm.
bit of that focus.
Yeah, I'm the same. I like to put some sitcoms on
Yeah, nice.
when I do this kind of repetitive work and this very planned out work. I'm definitely the same when I'm doing my outlines, for example. Just
What's your
following.
what's your go to show to watch?
So I think I've been watching um The Rookie,
Oh yeah, okay.
the police series. I don't think
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really good. So I think I'm watching the fourth or fifth season, and it's really, I think it's turning into some kind of telenovela thing. It's
It is.
really, I mean, it has been from the start, but But it's great to have it that run on the side.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's like I feel like it's hard to find the right kind of program to have on while you're working because it can't be too interesting. Otherwise, you're just staring at the screen the whole time rather than actually doing the work.
yeah, right. So if it's, I think I watched Severance first season, and I started working on the side, and then I realized I can't work while this is running. But as a Brit, I need to say at this point that I also love watching old Top Gear episodes on the side.
Yeah, okay.
So because I mean I know that especially uh Clarkson, what's his
Jeremy
first
Clarkson.
right.
Yeah.
Uh, so uh, he's like a bit controversial person, I think, right? But I think his humor and his presence as a host of this show is really insane. And
Yeah.
they also had the Amazon series that what was that called?
Grand
Grand
Tour, I
Tour,
think.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not a petrol head or anything, but I love car design, so I really appreciate not only like old timers or so, and not only sports cars, but I'm just fascinated by car design, and that's why I really love to have some. I mean, they're talking about some 2002 Toyota something in their show, but I don't mind it. I got it running on the side, and Clarkson is making some jokes about Japanese cars or whatever, and it's really
Yeah.
something I enjoy.
Yeah.
I hope I'm
Nice.
not getting canceled for that.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I can't stand Jeremy Clarkson for all of
Yeah,
the reasons that you were saying. You know, he's like just not a nice man. But
no, his
I also enjoyed some of those early Top Gear. I can't lie. When they were coming out on TV, that was good. That was
yeah.
good
Let's
stuff.
just quickly say before it's too late that he definitely is an old white misogynist man. So
Yes, we don't like Jeremy Clarkson.
yeah, he really is. So it's a shame, but yeah.
Yeah, there was a charm to some of those early episodes. Definitely, I always liked the ones where they were like. I think there was one I remember quite strongly where they bought these like old cars and they had to convert them into limousines.
Mm-hmm.
So they like kind of they would like really bodging these like terrible looking like big dented bits of metal to kind of stretch out these
Yeah,
cars. And yeah,
they have been.
that was funny TV. Can't lie.
These were my favorite episodes as well, where they had to buy like a car for under
Yeah,
$1,000 or so.
yeah,
Like I think there was one where they had to buy a Maserati for under 3K or so, and had to drive it to Italy or some kind of stuff. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
enjoyed these a lot as well, because you have like these travel reports on the side, but also these
yeah.
the guys making funny jokes. So yeah, that's
The other
I
one
think
that I was
it's
just
really definitely kind of golden times of television.
yeah, no, totally, it totally was like divorced from the context of
Yes.
who all of the men involved were. They were pretty funny. There's also one that I remember that I just remember like being in hysterics watching, which was do you know Only Fools and Horses, which is an old British sitcom,
I don't know. I
quite
think I
famous.
don't.
Okay, well anyway, in there they drove. Can't remember what it's called. It's a funny old car. It's a three-wheeler, so it's got
Hmm.
one wheel at the front, two at the back. Um, and Jeremy Clarkson was doing a piece about the factory that makes those.
Is it
And
the one that always falls over?
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
know
in
it. I
every
know.
shot, he would turn it really sharply
Yeah,
and
yeah,
roll over.
yeah.
That
Right.
that's funny. You
Yeah,
can't deny it. That's funny.
absolutely. Yeah, that one was great. Of
Yeah,
course, I didn't know the context about the whole like the old
yeah.
show and everything, but it was still great. Him
Yeah,
like
so
going
that
in a
car's like kind of beloved in the hearts of most British people because of it coming
okay.
from this show,
Well,
which
that's
is
why they
yeah,
got this nasty fan mail, um,
yeah, exactly, yeah,
because they kind of yeah they put like this national treasure
yeah,
into
exactly.
like threw shit at it. Yeah. Okay.
That was very funny though. Yeah,
All right.
cool.
Well, that's I didn't expect us to talk about that kind of stuff so for so long, but it's
Here
okay.
we are.
I hope they will still people be with us now.
Yeah, fingers
Um,
crossed.
the reason I actually ask about the silence or noise thing is that I want to put together a little playlist for the podcast after
Cool.
the season, and every artist is supposed to name 3 songs for the playlist. That I could put podcast episodes in there as well. I guess it doesn't matter. So if you want to name a podcast, we can do that as well. But if you have 3 songs, you could add or you would add to the playlist that you like listening while working. You do not have to do that now, but if something is on your mind right now, let me know.
Yeah, I say I'm more of a an albums guy than like a playlist guy. So thinking of individual songs is difficult, but I've been enjoying the new album by Daryl Johns lately. I think it's just called Daryl Johns. That's fun to listen to. And I will think of some other things off screen.
What was that?
I'll think of some other things later on.
Oh yeah, okay, sure. That's allowed. That's
It's
fine.
always like, you always get asked that sort of thing, and like every bit of music you've ever heard leaves your head, right?
Yeah, I'm the same. So I wouldn't like to answer that question myself, but
Just make everyone else answer it for you.
As the nasty host I am, I can just throw that at you. All right. So the last one is like a more of a positive, good vibes kind of thing, because I want to know what your dream creative project is. So if you had time and no budget restrictions, no deadline restrictions, you can go wild if you want. What would that be?
Wow, what a fun question. I mean, so like I did a couple of projects back in the football days, early career, when I was doing a lot of stuff like football related. I had a couple of things where I was designing like sort of fake club crests that were getting turned into, like I did one for Nike, and there was a cancelled one that was for Kappa. And I really love doing stuff like that. So sort of like kind of branding, but like for kind of fake teams or fake regions or whatever, and doing something like that, and also like designing shirts and full kits and stuff like that. I think that could be a really fun project, like kind of constructing a whole kind of like, it's like almost as like a world building exercise, you know?
That sounds great. I think they should have hired you for the Ted Lasso thing to design the AFC Richmond. I mean,
that's
I think
outlet for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
I had an idea years ago for like an exhibition that would just like show, I would make like fake game programs or like scarves and things like that, just of artifacts of these different teams. And I still think that would be a really fun idea, but obviously that's a lot of work and a lot of production involved.
Yeah, well, that's what the question is for, so you don't have to pay attention to that. I'd love to see a whole Chester Holme football league with 20 clubs all designed by you.
Yeah. No, it'd be so fun. Cool. Yeah, I think that'd be a really cool one.
That's a great project.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for our podcast today. That was my last question. Anything you want to add, or anything you want to ask me, or?
I mean, no, it's been a fun chat. I've enjoyed it. We should do it again sometime.
Yeah, I'd love to. That was really cool. So I just shockingly realized that we are over 90 minutes already. So that's crazy. So that's a good sign, because obviously we had a good time recording this.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Chester. Thanks so much for joining me, and fingers crossed for the rest of the Kickstarter campaign of our book, of course.
Yeah, everyone go and have a look, get involved.
And I'll be watching out for new work of yours. Cheers.
Nice one. Likewise. Thanks so much, Stefan.
That was Chester Holme for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the chat we had, and please let me know how you liked it. Leave a review or a thumbs up from wherever you're watching or listening. That would help me a lot to get this podcast on the road in the future. And any kind of feedback is really much appreciated. Thanks, you guys, and see and hear you in the next episode. Bye-bye.